This pilot takes a collapse very low to the ground, loses control of the heady, almost spirals into the trees, but survives. Today, I'm going to break down everything that he did wrong so that you can understand this so you can fly safer every day. Ready? Here we go.
See ya.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Stoked you're here. This is Ari. I break down collapses to help pilots see the truth about their decision-making, which is the same thing I do in the Paragliding Men's group, where 50 pilots from 15 countries have stopped lying to themselves about their patterns and started living with real integrity. Flying reveals who you are under pressure, and if you're ready to face that truth and become the man you're capable of being in the air and on the ground, then apply using the link in the description below. This is the last week for you to apply. Let's get into today's video. As always, I'm going to play it for you one time, then I'm going to break it down. Okay, so this is in Tennessee, flying into the ridge, off the bar, flying a light, coming around, turning, bit of pitch, a little bit of swing under, more pitch, a little bit of a shoot here, preventable collapse, loses heading control, spiraling back towards launch. Is he going into the trees? No, it reinflates hard. Big pitch here, and he flies away. Okay. So much here. Okay, so first things first. There's a couple things I noticed right off the bat here. I'll show you. One, speed bar is connected incorrectly on the right side. You see this speed bar line connection is going around the back of the riser, which is incorrect. It should be going around the front of the riser. On the left side, it's correct. It's connected correctly. He's holding the brakes in a way that I think is indicative of not knowing, how would I say this gently, kind of not knowing what you're doing. Also just like not setting yourself up to have the authority over the glider that you need to control this glider. This is an Ozone Light. This is a ENC 2-liner, lightweight. This thing is a real glider and needs respect and a very active pilot. And you'll see in this video, that is not what we have here. So all of this is fine. Obviously holding the brakes, he basically has his hands through the brake toggles with winter gloves on. This is not recommended for a number of reasons. The first of which being a half wrap is the correct way to hold the brake. You grab the bottom of the brake toggle, you turn your hand under. This allows you to go from the rear risers without a wrap and onto the brakes. When you take a wrap, a smooth, consistent pattern. And also, if something happens and you get line twisted, it has happened many times where pilots get their hand stuck in the brake toggles because their hand is all the way through the brake toggle. I don't recommend that. So keep your hand out of the brake toggles, use a half wrap, and you're going to need the authority over the glider, which we're going to see in just a second. Okay. And then the next thing I noticed right here, look at this left hand. If you've watched any of these videos, you know that the risers are hot lava, as Ed says, and grabbing the risers is never acceptable. Never. And it is indicative of a certain level of pilot that really is not prepared to handle anything with the glider. If you fly around and you touch the risers and you grab them, then when shit hits the fan, you're going to clamp onto them or be a deer in the headlights or something. We're going to see some of that here in just a second. Pitches up. He's holding onto that left riser. He's got like a pseudo active piloting where he's like touching brake pressure, but he never goes farther than feeling brake pressure. Now he flies into a bit of a thermal, pitches up, the glider comes out of it and takes a huge collapse. Okay, so what needs to happen here? Why does the glider collapse? The glider collapses because it surges forward and it goes completely unchecked in any meaningful way. So the glider shoots forward here and it collapses. And what needed to happen? The brakes needed to be pulled symmetrically, maybe down to the carabiners or so, momentarily, right? This was not a huge surge. This was not a huge, active, big booming thermal that collapsed this glider. This was literally just pitch that went unchecked. And the way that the brakes were held, the rigging of the harness, the riser grabbing, this is all like the precursor for this kind of egregious mishandling. And honestly, being on a glider that the pilot is clearly not qualified to be flying. And I say this in the most loving way. I'm sure this guy is like awesome and has people who really love him, and that he's probably flown gliders in the C class for a long time without incident, but just because you've done it without incident doesn't mean that it was ever safe or that you ever qualified to do it. The proof is in the pudding here. When something really, really benign happens and the instincts and reactions are not there, that's the judge, jury, and executioner for the case that you should be flying an ENC two-liner. And it gets worse because then what happens? Boom, now we've got a big collapse. Now what happens? The pilot basically from this point forward does nothing. He's deer in the headlights. He sits onto, his weight now is onto the collapsed side. He's basically at best sitting flat in the center and at worst leaned over and looking at the collapsed side. You can see his left hand here is pulling just like kind of minimum active piloting amount of input. The right hand is kind of in the middle. It's on the other side of the riser, just kind of sitting there. And you see that the glider is going to immediately start an auto rotation. He does not fight it. He does not control the heading of the glider. He does not weight shift away. He doesn't pull a bunch of brake to keep the glider flying away from the hill. And in this configuration right here, I mean, look, this is a death sentence. He's low over launch. He's at launch height. The glider is totally collapsed. It's diving and spiraling on the horizon, and the pilot is not sure what to do. This is absolute worst case scenario. This is why you have to know these maneuvers. If you're going to fly this kind of glider especially, do not let the glider turn you ever. So let's continue. The glider then at 270, he's so lucky because at 270, it builds up enough speed, nose down, spiraling towards the ground, trees, rocks, launch, that it builds up enough pressure that it just blows out the cravat. Boom! And he basically flies away, obviously not handling the energy well. And then he yells out, woo, like, holy shit. Yeah, bro. So this kind of thing should really scare pilots and communities. This is a huge wake-up call. ENC two-liners are no joke. In the last 2 years, the amount of videos that I have reviewed of ENC two-liners collapsing and people not knowing how to handle it is so many. Way too many people are stepping onto ENC two-liners without the correct qualifications. This is a perfect example. Not holding the brakes right, not rigging correctly, holding the risers, and then on a totally benign surge that's so easy to catch, just letting the glider do whatever it wants. As we look here, as the glider surges forward, he pulls a little bit of brake, and then right when it matters, he actually lets up, which makes the collapse. So this kind of thing is just so preventable and so painful for me to watch. I don't want to see people get hurt. I have been the first responder to fatalities in paragliding. I have done 5 helicopter rescues. I have been all over the world paragliding and seen people do things that are ill-advised. I think that in this case, this pilot should not be flying this glider. And if he should, he needs to be way more trained in SIV and clear about his maneuvers. Don't let the glider turn you. Hold the brakes properly. Rig the risers correctly. Don't grab onto the risers in flight. All of these things are seriously some of the most basic things in paragliding, and we are seeing so many videos like this. And this is not to shame anyone. This is just to bring the awareness into the community of like, there's a lot of people who are not making sound conservative decisions for their lives. Like they don't care enough about their life. They don't care enough that says, oh, my family loves me and I actually want to be around, so I'm going to make conservative decisions in the glider that I fly. Why is that? We're so privileged, we're rich, we're smart, we're talented, we have this amazing sport, but why is it that our deep self-love is just not there, that we actually take embodied action to protect ourselves from stupid shit that can happen? I don't know. It drives me crazy, but I'm making these videos as an attempt to try to keep men living long enough in paragliding so that they can realize what's really important to them and so that they can go after it. If that's you, if you have a wife and children that you really care about and you want to be the best husband and father that's possible, there's really no better person to help you than me. I'm the only person in the world of paragliding that coaches men in their relationships and their leadership. So if that is something that you're interested in, definitely get a hold of me. Use the link in the description below. Paragliding Men's Group is an incredible place. This is the 5th cohort. We've got 10 men signed up already. We only have 2 spots left. This is the last week to apply. Let's fucking go. See you on the next episode.